All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the third subject on this YouTube channel. This time we will be talking about factor construction for empirical reasons or studies. So for this video, I will mainly talk about the illiquidity measure, which has also been studied before in several papers, such as those by Amihut in 2002. And I thought also Amihut and No or something in 2021. Um, but what is really most important in this video is that I show you how the methods work. So the methods of this factor construction, they are most important. So how to put everything in quintiles, for example, and make a high minus low portfolio. Um, and so you can do that with all kinds of different factors that you can come up with yourself. So it doesn't necessarily have to be an illiquidity measure. It can also be something else. Um, but put differently, these methods are uh, quite universal. But indeed, in this video, I will demonstrate it with an illiquidity measure. Of course, we are all familiar with the Fama-French factors, but there may be other risk factors that can be scrutinized, and these methods in Excel can be very helpful. So hence this video. Looking at our Excel sheet, here is some data from Amihut from their 2002 paper that we will use for our illiquidity measure. Just a small note. I think it is important to mention that in Amihut's article in 2002, they mainly look at market illiquidity relative to stock returns. But in this video, we will mainly look at stock illiquidity relative to stock returns. And for simplicity, we will calculate this stock illiquidity measure using the following formula. And this is that formula, which goes as follows. It states that the illiquidity, the illic measure at for stock Y at day D is equal to 10 to the power 6 times the absolute daily return of the different stocks divided by the dollar volume, the daily dollar volume of the different stocks at a different day. And in this data set, we have enough ingredients to calculate this measure. If we look at sheet 1, we here see at the top, we see several columns with different stocks denoted by different numbers. And on the left-hand side, we then see several rows with dates from 2 January 1996 to 31 December 2015. And then on this first sheet, we see all kinds of cells with daily returns of different stocks, which are not indicated in percentages, but in factors. And I would also recommend it to you to, if you want to do factor construction, then you can better put the numbers in factors rather than percentages. Um, yeah. Well, if we then look at sheet 2, we can see that this shows the daily dollar volumes of the various stocks. We go upwards. Here we see the various stocks and their daily dollar volumes that we also need to use to obtain the illiquidity measure. And if we look at the last two sheets, we see that shows the this sheet shows the monthly returns, and the last sheet shows some fama fringe factors. So this is just the data I've downloaded, and these are the ingredients to do our factor construction for the illiquidity measure. Well, this formula states that we need the absolute daily return. So first of all, we will have to make this absolute daily returns. Well, first we should give it a name. So we can call it step one, absolute daily returns. And then we can go to the daily returns, copy the dates, and paste the dates a little bit bigger, and then copy the different stocks and paste the different stocks. And then we can use the following formula is abs from absolute, and then you want to well, oh, not, we don't want this. Uh, so here um, is absolute, yeah. Well, we can drag it downwards. Close parentheses, enter, and then we can also drag it to the right, and we see that it automatically will make the or will compute the other cells. And then we can also format this a little bit. So let's say we want only 4 decimals. And then indeed this works. So yeah, now we have the absolute daily returns. And what we then need to have, well, now we can compute the illiquidity measure. So step two, we call it illiq. And well, again, we need the dates. So first we have to structure it. Copy and paste dates. Did I do this correctly? Always do a little check. Yes, we did. Then again, we want the different stocks. Copy, paste. And now we should use our formula. So is 10 to the power 6 times, well, our absolute daily return divided by the daily dollar volume of the first day of the first stock, and then close parentheses, push enter, and we get this value. We can also format it, which is correct. Do we then need to do something with dollar signs? No, we don't. We can drag it to the right again. So do this for all these stocks on that specific day. And then we can also drag it. Yes, it works. And indeed, these are the right numbers. Yeah, so, and did they also Go to the bottom of this sheet. Yes. So here we have all the daily illiquid measures. Well, if you then, most of the time, if you now have, well, now you have your daily illiquidity measures, but then most of the time you want to convert these daily measures into monthly average measures. Because then we can better sort these stocks into the different quintiles. Eventually, we want to make 5 different quintiles. And if we convert these daily measures into monthly measures, we can make these quintiles better. And also for the factor construction, we want to do this on a monthly basis. So now you want to convert these daily illiquidity measures into average monthly illiquidity measures for each stock. And how can we do this? Well, first we make a new sheet and well, let's call it step 3, of course, average monthly illics. And then we can here use these from the monthly returns, we can use these dates. Control Shift down, copy and paste. And here you also want the stocks again, the 40 different stocks. Copy and paste. All right, and now we want, so for every month, we want the average illiquidity measure, monthly illiquidity measure, and also for every stock. So how can we convert uh, these daily illiquidity measures of 1 month into one average monthly illiquidity measure? Well, we can do this by the average ifs function. But before we do that, I first always make a extra or 2 extra columns. Over here I put month, and over here I put year, and I then use the month is month function, and then we select this date and close parentheses, and here I use the is year function, and I select this date and I close parentheses. Then you can double click on it and then it goes downwards automatically. So now we have the months, and the years behind these daily illiquidity measures. What we then do is we use the built-in function is average ifs, and we can use this average ifs in the following way. First, if you open parentheses, it asks you for the average range. For the average range, we want to use the daily illiquidity measures. And then we go to the first stock and we select the whole first column, right? So Control Shift down. But if we soon will drag this function to the right or downwards, we only want the columns to change. So we put here a dollar sign and we put here a dollar sign. So behind the letters. Then It asks you for the criteria range. Well, then you could, for instance, firstly choose the month. So you choose the month, Control Shift down the whole column. And for this criteria range one, you always, if you are going to drag it, you always want it to stay the same. So here you put two dollar signs before and after the letters. And here again, right? And then it asks you for the criteria one. So we want for this first month, the average monthly illiquidity measure for the first stock for the first month, well, the month need to be equal to 1. So we go back to our average monthly illiquids sheet and we, as criteria 1, we select month 1. Uh, but, of course, here, if you're going to drag it downwards or to the right, here you only want the rows or the months to change and not the columns. So here we put a dollar sign before the letter. And then we fill in the second criteria range. So the second criteria range, we go back to the the daily illic values, and we select the whole year column as criteria range 2. So Control Shift down arrow. Again, here you want this criteria range to always stay the same. If you're going to drag it, so we put again two dollar signs around the letters. And then you fill in criteria 2, which is of course on this sheet again. And the criteria is that it should be equal to 1996. All right. And then again here you only want the rows to change and not the columns. So you put in a dollar sign before the B. And hopefully it will work if we now press enter. Let's see. I think it does. I think it does. It does also work if you drag it to the right. Let me format it again. Wait, let's see if we drag it downwards. It also does. So that is because of the dollar signs, right? If we hadn't the dollar signs over there, this wouldn't happen. Then you would get, if you would drag it downward, maybe this value would indeed be computed, but if you would drag it downward, then you will get many errors. So I would say if you don't understand it, just copy what I'm doing. But of course, yeah, it isn't that difficult. Um, so I would say follow the steps which I'm doing. So again, we can drag it to the right for all the 40 stocks. And hopefully we can then also double click. So I think it should be somewhere over here. Yeah, exactly. And now we want to format it because this looks a little bit ugly. So let's say 5 decimals. And let me correct or control if I am not wrong. No, this also looks okay, I think. Yeah. So now we have our average monthly illiquidity measures. And what we want to do now is we want for every month we want to rank the different stocks in terms of illiquidity. And so note that we are now actually looking at cross-sectional data. So for every month, we are gonna look to cross-sectional data. So for every month, we want to rank each stock based on their illiquidity. So how are we going to do that? We make a new sheet again. Uh, we let's call it step 4 rank. And again, we want the dates, month, year, copy, paste. And we want the different stocks, copy, paste. And now we use the following formula is rank dot eq. Then we select our first number of the average monthly ILX sheet. And we then say, um, well, we then want to select, as a reference, we want to select the whole row. So the whole, so all the monthly illiquidity measures of month 1 of the different stocks. So Control Shift right. And here again, because of because we will soon drag it to the right and downwards, we again will put $2 over here before the letters, and then we say we want it to be descending. And if we then push enter, it gives us this value. And we can also drag this value down. That's correct. And we can drag this value to the right. And then it gives us these values. And if we now again want to drag it downwards, it also does. So what does this actually say? These values actually, for instance, the first stock in the first month, it says that this stock has the, let me say it correctly. Yeah, this first stock has the 26th highest illiquidity value in this month. And if we look at this stock, we see that it has the lowest illiquidity measure. So if our rank is 1, it means that in a certain month, in this month, maybe in the first month, let's search for number 1. Yeah, it's this stock. This stock is the most illiquid stock in this month, and also in the next month, and also in that next month. And like I said before, this stock is the most liquid stock in this month, and also in the next month. So, like I said before, we look at cross-sectional data now. For every month, we look at the different stocks and their monthly liquidity values, and their ranks in terms of these average monthly illiquidity values. Well, now we've done this, we now want to sort these different stocks into, let's say, 5 quintiles. And yeah, we should split them up into quintiles. And let's say that we have illiquid stocks in quintal 1 and the most liquid stocks in quintile 5. So again, let's make a new sheet, which is step 5, and we call it quintile. And again, we copy the dates, copy, paste, and then copy and paste. And here we also want to copy and paste. All right. And now we will get I will put in a formula, which again looks quite long and maybe complicated. But if you follow my steps and listen carefully, maybe also pause the video if I'm going too fast, then you will understand what I'm doing. So I will use the formula is if, and what I then will do is open parentheses, and I will go to the former sheet, and I will select the first rank of the rank of the first stock in the first month. And then I will say, so this is a kind of a test. If this value is smaller than or equal to, and then I put in the function count. And what I then will do is I will say count all the stocks in this month. So Control Shift right, and then it says it will count all the values in this, or all the stocks in this first month, which, like said before, is of course 40. Here, maybe a small note. Here you want to, again, you want to put two dollar value, yeah, dollar signs, because you're gonna drag it downwards and to the right eventually. So this is a handy way to do that easily. Um, and then you close parentheses and you divide it by 5. So what does this piece of formula actually say until now? It says that this C2, so if this rank, this 26, is smaller than or equal to, well, the whole count the whole row, so all these stocks, is smaller than or equal to 40 divided by 5. Well, 40 divided by 5 is 8. So if it's smaller than or equal to 8, then if this value is, if this test is true, then we will say it should be called quintile 1. If this value is not true, then we go to the next test. So we again say if, now, then again we select this cell, so C2, and we again say if this value is smaller than or equal to 2, this time it's 2 times count open parentheses. Again, there are other ways to do this, but this was the formula I found, and I think it's maybe it looks like a complicated formula, but the intuition is very simple actually. Then we say 2 times count, well, we again select the whole row of the first month and divide it by 5. And here again, you put two dollar signs before the letters. So we divide it by 5, and then we say that if this test is true, we want to call it, or we want it to be called quintile 2. And if this test isn't true, then we will make a new test. And we say if, again, this value is smaller than or equal to 3 times counts, then this whole row divided by 5. And then again, you want to put in $2 before the letters. So like I said before, it's quite a long formula, but it doesn't matter. And then we say, if this is true, we want it to be called quintile 3, right? If this isn't true, we will make a new test, which goes as follows. If, again, we go to rank and we select the C2, and we say if this value is smaller than or equal to 4 times counts, open parentheses, and then we select the whole row again of month 1 and close parentheses and divide it by 5. Again, we put $2 dollar signs please for the letters. And then we say if this test is true, we want it to be, called quintile 4. And then if this value isn't true, or if this test isn't true, then we want it to be called if, no, not to be called. Then we want to run the last test, which goes as follows. It's actually the same as the former tests. If, again, C2, right? Yeah. Is smaller than or equal to 5 times counts the whole row, Control Shift right, divided by 5. Don't forget to put the dollar signs again before the letters. Divided by 5. And if this test is true, we want it to be called quintile 5. And if this value, or if this test isn't true, then we have nothing left. So we close it with, in our case, 5 parentheses. Yeah. So, also a small note, we divide it by 5 every time because we have 5 different quintiles. But if in your case you want, for whatever reason, you want 6 quintiles, then of course you need to divide by 6. So that's a kind of the intuition behind this formula. And hopefully if we now press enter, it will give us a value. You see? It gives us a value. So the first stock in the first month is put into quintile 4. And is that logical? Well, actually it is, because we saw that here this rank said that in the first month, the first stock had the 26th highest illiquidity measure. So actually, its illiquidity measure is quite low. It's quite liquid. This stock is quite liquid. And we said that, well, let's look, for instance, at, if we drag it to the right, hopefully it also works. Yeah, I think it does. Yes. And if we then drag it downwards, hopefully it also does. Yeah, it seems it does. All right. So maybe you could also make this a little bit bigger to keep the overview. So let's look, for instance, um, at this stock. So the third stock. It says that in the first month, this stock is put in quintile 5. Well, we said that quintile 5 is the quintile with the most liquid stocks. So if we look at our rank, indeed, this is correct. Because here we see that it got a rank of 40. And 40 means that it is uh, the 40 um, is the most liquid stock, actually. And if the stock had a number of 1, it meant that it was the most illiquid stock. So indeed, this is correct. So quintile 1, it is the quintile or the portfolio, how you want to call it, doesn't matter. It's the portfolio or quintile with the highest illiquid stocks. And quintile 5 is the portfolio with um, the most liquid stocks. So the lowest illiquid stocks. Well, now we have put these different stocks into different quintiles. What do we want to do now? We now want to make the IML factor. We call it the like Amihud and the researchers, many different researchers, they call it the IML factor. So now we want to construct the IML factor. And again, we want to make a new sheet. And we call it IML factor. So again, we want these dates, copy and paste it. And what do we want to do now? We want to make a high minus low portfolio. That's the last step. And how are we going to do it? Well, first we want quintile 1, and then we want quintile 5. And what do we want from these quintiles? We want the average monthly returns of the stocks from quintile 1. So for the first month, we want all the monthly returns uh, of the stocks from quintile 1. And we want the average of this. So we want the average of the portfolio of the most illiquid stocks, the average monthly return. Well, here, for this first month, for each stock, we have the different quintiles. But here, you don't see the monthly returns. But we also have the monthly returns for each month. That's the data we just downloaded. So for first month, you see the different monthly returns. So how are we going to compare these monthly returns with the quintiles and get the average? Well, we also use that function. We can do that. We can do that with the with the average is function. So let's do that. If we say if is average ifs open parentheses, well, then we go to the monthly returns. And like said before, we now look at these sheets as if it's cross-sectional data. So, well, we select the whole, all the monthly returns of the uh, um, first month, all the different stocks. So that's our average range. So Control Shift right. And then for simplicity, again, we want to put $2 signs because we only want or the month change if we are going to drag it downwards or to the right. Um, so here we put the dollar signs. So that's our average range. And then we've come to our criteria range one, and that should be the quintile sheet. So the quintile row of the first month. So we select the whole row with Ctrl Shift right again. So now we have our criteria range one, and again here you want to put two dollar signs. And now we want this criteria range to be equal to, of course, quintile 1. So this formula actually says that from all the average, no, not the average, from all the monthly returns from the different stocks of the first month, we only want to get the average monthly, so one number, the average monthly return of the stocks in that month from the most illiquid quintile. So quintile 1. And here you again, right here, this quintile 1, so the C1, you only want to change it. Uh, you only want the columns to change if you're going to drag it to the right. So here you want to put a dollar sign after the letter. And then you close parentheses and hopefully it will work again. And it does. So this formula here gives you a value of or a return, a monthly return of, well, 12.8% in the first month. An average monthly return of 12.8%. Well, we can also drag this downwards. Well, double click on it. And then we see that in the second month, it gives us a monthly return of quintile 1, so of the most illiquid stocks, an average monthly return of minus 1.26 percent, right? And we can also drag it to the right again, and then we only see that the C1 is changing into D1, so quintile 1, the criteria value is changing into quintile 5, D1, which is correct, of course. And we can also drag this downwards, double click on it. And yeah, it seems that these values are correct. We can format it a little bit to make it look more nicely. And now the last thing you want to do is to create the IML factor, which is actually the most simple thing of this whole video. And that is just take the difference of the high portfolio, so the highest illiquid stocks, minus the low portfolio, the most liquid or the least illiquid stocks. So you just do C2 minus D2, right? Am I saying that correctly? Yeah. And then enter. And then you can also drag this downwards, hopefully. No, it doesn't work. You have to do it manually. So drag it downwards. And then you get your IML factor. So this is the monthly IML factor return. And now you have your illiquidity factor. So this is basically there, like I said before, there are also other ways to do this. But this is basically yeah, my variant of this factor construction. And this is the way yeah, how I most of the time do it. So yeah, hopefully you You could also do this yourself and you understood what I was saying. And I hope this video was a little bit handsful for you. And yeah, that was actually it. That was the third subject of this channel. For the next time, I still don't know what I will upload, but we will see.